Hey, everybody! Welcome to Nerds with Alcohol. I'm Chris,
I'm Russ.
and this is episode 218.
218, back in the virtual nerd basements, guys. Welcome. It is a beautiful, beautiful March 9th here in the Detroit area. I mean, yesterday was like it got up to 66 degrees.
Yeah, it was
66
crazy.
degrees in early March. That's holy shit warm. I mean, I'm loving it. It's great. It's been a nice little reprieve, particularly after we had that horrible snowstorm that kind of that paralyzed pretty much most of the country.
Yeah.
Except for
It was-
Florida. I think Florida was the only state that really didn't have any major impact on that, But it's been nice. The whole week is supposed to get dipped back down to like 53 or something today, but tomorrow it's getting back up into the low 60s.
Yeah, we're supposed to have like thunderstorms on Thursday. Which
Yeah, I heard that too.
That'll be the first time we've had those this year. But yeah, yesterday I actually took the dog out for a walk for the first time, and it was nice. Although I'm still feeling, we got a new TV and entertainment center over the weekend, and
you didn't mention that.
And yeah, I was squatting down and kneeling down, putting the entertainment center together quite a bit. And
there, old man, how you feeling there?
Yeah, my knees are really starting to feel it there.
You're getting a feeling that heat. Yeah,
I'll tell you what, CBD gummies though, fantastic.
Gets me some of those. There's
a lot.
Yeah, there's several dispensaries here in Hazel Park, and one is opening walking distance from my house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right just south of 9 Mile on the I-75 service drive. It's actually used to be a Coney Island restaurant.
Oh, the Coney place, yeah.
Yeah, I had never actually seen that place open. Like it's always been I don't know.
Coney,
it was a weird.
It used to be a Big Boy.
Oh, okay.
And then it became a Coney place, and my buddy Ed was living over there, and he was living right down the street there. I think not on Jarvis, but on the one just before it. Anyway, he was right over there, and I think it was open for 3 days or a week, and then it closed.
It's a really weird location.
It really is kind of a shit location
for a restaurant. Yeah. Absolutely. Because like I said, it's right on the service drive, just south of 9. So if you turn right off of 9 on the service drive to I-75. It's right there, but it's kind of a weird place to have.
Yeah,
it's
not easy to get to. It's really kind of. Location does not matter for a dispensary. You're right, CD.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah, it's like thanks, CD. It's not. It's not. Yeah, people will. I mean, like I said, I could walk there from my house. So I mean, I'm not a big smoker. I don't. My lungs are sensitive, but edibles, man, I'd be down for some edibles, particularly how maybe ones that like don't get me high too, because the CBD oil has been really great for a lot of people.
The CBD stuff that Renee gets is fantastic, and it truly does help. I take them before bed. One, it helps me sleep better,
right?
And two, I wake up in the morning and I'm not achy. Right. Like if I do a lot of activity, like doing the thing on Saturday. I took CBD that night. I woke up the next day. I wasn't like dying. I went and curled. I took CBD again because I curled. Yeah. Normally on the nights I curl, I do take it because there's a lot of squatting and stuff. And my knees, I mean, I'm a tall guy. My knees are the weakest part of my entire body. And I was told at a young age that I would have knee problems my entire life because of the fact that I grew so fast and because of how tall I am.
Yeah, and I've had knee problems myself too. I mean, I'm not as tall as you are. I'm 6 foot, but still, which is still on the tall side. But I'm not near what you probably have to deal with. Although I had surgery, knee surgery as a teenager.
I'm just waiting for the day that I have to, because I know I'm going to have surgery on both knees.
I'll probably have to have it again sometime. Probably not for another decade or two.
But it also doesn't help that I'm carrying around extra weight, and that puts extra force on especially like my knee joints. So. I really do need to get myself in shape. So yeah, I did have some sad news in my family. One of my uncles passed away. My godfather actually.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Passed away this last week. Haven't heard anything about any sort of arrangements or anything. He was down in Florida, had retired down there, and so I don't know what all the plans are. But
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. What did he what happened?
He'd been fighting bladder cancer, I guess, for years.
My grandfather's dealing with that right now too. It's one of those really slow cancers usually. Like my grandfather will probably die of old age before the cancer actually kills him. But it's particularly if you keep an eye on it.
Yeah, he's the same age as my dad. So
I'm so sorry, brother. So sorry.
It was my mom's older brother. But yeah, so so that we had that, but other than that, I mean the week was all right. Otherwise, just work and stuff. Like I said, got the new TV, and it's for our first 4K TV. Not that we have any 4K stuff or a 4K, game system like somebody has, but
it's nice.
Yeah,
it's nice. I'm actually thinking about now buying like the 4K Blu-rays and stuff now for some of my movies instead. Not repurchasing, but in the future buying 4K Blu-rays instead of regular ones. Now that I have a TV that can handle it, and I have a 4K player with my PS5.
Well, and that's the thing. We got everything set up on Saturday, and we're like, what's the first thing we're gonna watch? And we were debating between Empire Strikes Back, and Renee decided that she would rather see Avengers, so that's what we wound up watching. Because I'm like, I could do either, but we wound up watching Avengers, the original, the first Avengers on the new TV, which was awesome.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And then I pulled up Horizon Zero Dawn.
Nice.
And started a brand new game with that, because that is one of the most beautiful games I've ever played, and I wanted to see it on a larger screen. And yeah, it was spectacular. I
got to tell you, this Kingdom Come Deliverance that I've been playing, it's definitely a difficult game, but it is gorgeous. It's gorgeous, man. I mean, the vistas, the grand vistas are just like, you'd be just walking along, and you're like, holy shit, this is just beautiful. And, and that's the thing. I mean, like almost all the games these days are on some level will just take your breath away. I mean, I've heard really good things about Assassin's Creed Valhalla and about how pretty that game is too. So.
It's pretty, but it's...
Oh, that's right. You have it, didn't you?
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with that game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't like it. One, it doesn't play like an Assassin's Creed game, which for some people is a bonus.
Right. I think I'd like it because of that, because I haven't really played a whole lot of the Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, I need to get back to it. I know a lot of people don't like certain things. Another very beautiful game is Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh yeah, I've heard good things too. Yeah,
and that's actually a really cool game. I have that one as well, and I need to get back to playing that. But yeah, that's another gorgeous game.
Honestly, Skyrim has some spectacularly beautiful aspects of it, particularly after they upgraded it from the PS3 version to the PS4 version, and they did like a graphics update and kind of advanced it.
I have that on the computer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you still haven't really delved much into it, have you?
No, because I got back into Cyberpunk. I got that when I couldn't play Cyberpunk, and then they patched Cyberpunk like a week later. So
no, they still haven't patched the new patch hasn't come out yet. They're still talking about that because it was originally supposed to patch in February, but apparently when CD Projekt Red got hacked a few weeks back, they actually got locked out of their computers. Like the hack actually locked the company out of their computers, and they
like ransomware, like the ransomware stuff.
They weren't able, but besides stealing the source codes and stuff, it actually locked everybody out, so they couldn't. It's pretty funny, honestly, if you ask me. But so that's one of the reasons why they've said that the 1.2 patch will probably be this month instead of in February. It'll probably be in March. So I'm waiting for that before I start another playthrough. Friday was Stella's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yes, she thanks you, I'm sure. We had a...
I wish her happy birthday then, too.
Yes, I'm fit, yeah. She had a nice... she had to work all weekend, so unfortunately there was that. But, Friday we did nice dinner, and and then just I kind of gave her like a massage, and we did some nice kind of birthday stuff each night a little bit, and then today I took her shopping and bought her some clothes, and I told her I would not buy her books. She works at a bookstore. I'm not gonna, and she has tons of books. So I'm like, look, we're gonna go shopping for like other things.
You should buy her some graphic novels.
There you go.
Some bound edition stuff.
Here.
This is what you need to start getting into to understand me better.
Read this. I have purchased a couple of them for her over the years. I bought her the first book for Fables, which is one of the first kind of things I recommend to people that aren't necessarily into superheroes, but kind of want to read comics. And I believe she had read some Sandman stuff back when she was with her ex-boyfriend years ago. But
that's one I want to read. I still have not read Sandman, but I've heard such good things about it. And I like Guy.
It's definitely good.
So.
Oh yeah, it's definitely good, but it is definitely also very different from like the Tights and Flights stuff that I like to read. So
I'm curious as to how the TV show is going to go.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, I think it's going to be fucking great. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be cool as hell. They're still casting, but I'm sure that as soon as that is, they start talking about that will be a subject that we'll deal with on Nerds with Alcohol. If anything, we might even cover the show.
Yeah, probably.
But other than that, it was just, kind of same old right now. I did get a call today from my boss at the parade company. Actually, I talked to him late last week briefly about that. Just they usually like to get in contact with us about this time of year, about when we're coming back, because now it's starting to warm up and we're starting to think about production again and stuff. And so he did say that we'd probably get into some repair work relatively soon, and then start getting into production, because we've got we've got 3 to 4 new floats that we're supposed to be building this year. But he had stated on Facebook that he had gotten his COVID vaccine. And I'm like, dude, how'd you get one? Where's mine? And I thought maybe he had a connection because his wife works in the medical field. I thought maybe no. Apparently, because the parade company is technically manufacturing and production, we qualify for COVID vaccine. So he texted me and called me today and gave me the phone number to call. So I'm going to be calling tomorrow about getting him an appointment to get my first shot.
Cool. I qualify in 2 weeks. So
cool.
I'm hoping to be able to get mine. So,
why 2 weeks?
Because
you're 50, so
yeah, but right now it's 50 with pre-existing conditions. The 22nd is 50 and older. Period.
From what I understand, on the average, we're vaccinating about 1 million people a day, or a week, or something like that.
I know. The goal is 50,000 a week or something like that in Michigan. And maybe
it was a week. But I think nationwide,
yeah,
like we're vaccinating like 1 million people a week or something like that, which is a lot. I mean, that's quite a bit, and I'm sure we're going to start rolling out even more and stuff. And I'm going to be getting the Pfizer vaccine too, which is pretty great.
Okay.
I mean, the Johnson & Johnson one is like 76%, but if I can get the 95% one,
yeah,
that's the one I prefer to get. I'll get the 2-shot one.
But they say, you should take whatever you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. They do. And I would. If it was still the Johnson & Johnson one, I'd still get, I'd take it. But,
Can I get them all? I'll just take them all. Just, stack them up.
That's right. Next stop, bars. Yeah. It's like, actually, today, Stella and I, we went to Pop's Italian in Ferndale for dinner. We've been there a number of times. It's one of those places I've been a lot. Great place if you guys get the opportunity. Really great, fresh, wood-fired pizzas. Spectacular. Thin crust pizza. If you get the chance, Pop's in Ferndale. They are not a sponsor of the show, as much as I'd like that, but just really like the place. And it was interesting. We walked in. We didn't have a reservation. The place is still very socially distanced. Mm-hmm. So we had to sit at the bar because we didn't have a reservation, but it was still, it was all right. It was nice, Interesting thing, funny story too, is we sat down and we're having dinner, and there was this couple with their like I don't know, it looked like two couples, and they had their two kids. You know, each couple had a kid, and they were having dinner and stuff. And Stella we get in the car, and she opens up Facebook, and she's looking, and she goes, "Oh my God, check this out!" And a friend of a friend basically had posted a friend of Stella's friend was the woman who was sitting at that table, and posted a picture of her with her husband and the kids and stuff, and hey, first night out, blah blah blah, and there's Stella and I in the picture in the background at the bar. And so Stella's friend was like, "Hey, that's my friend Stella sitting at the bar." And it was just, and not ironically, I guess, really, but coincidentally, the little girl's name was Stella.
Huh.
It was just weird coincidence. Yeah, that was a photo bomb, but that was an unintentional photo bomb. What are you drinking, man?
I am drinking a delicious dessert in a glass right now. This right here is a beer from New Holland. I believe I reviewed probably a couple years ago now. The Poet Oatmeal Stout that New Holland does. New Holland is one of my favorite breweries. I've mentioned that several times. And they're out of Holland, Michigan. But this particular one is called Peanut Butter Porter. And there's the can. It's a 16-ounce can, so it's a 1-pint can. This is an Imperial Oatmeal Stout with peanut butter. And let's see, it is that 10%? Yeah, 10% ABV. It's really little and very close to the same color. It is dark, as an Imperial Stout should be. You get the peanut butter aroma when you sniff it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not overpowering peanut butter flavor. I'm going to go ahead and take another sip here. It's there's a lot of chocolate notes, and you get enough peanut butter to balance it out. And honestly, this is the closest thing to a peanut butter cup in a glass that I've ever had. This is probably one of the best peanut butter stouts or porters or those types of drinks that I've ever actually been able to find as far as balance goes. A lot of times it's too much peanut butter and it throws it out of balance, and it doesn't taste right. This is absolutely fantastic. I will give this 4.5 bottle caps easy for what it is. So yeah, if you can find it, Peanut Butter Poet, it is definitely worth picking up.
Cool.
It is a little bit on the expensive side because it is an Imperial, so it takes a little bit more grain and stuff like that. This is actually part of the Brewer's Best series, it looks like, for 2021, number 1. Combining two classics for one delectable treat. We took our classic oatmeal stout, upped the ABV, and loaded it with real creamy peanut butter. The result is a rich and velvety, full-bodied brew with a nutty sweetness to amplify the poet you know and love. Quoth the raven, more peanut butter, please.
Okay.
It is a limited release. But yeah, it is absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Really good. Really, really good. And they did another one that I'm probably going to review maybe next week, or maybe I'll wait a week and do something different next week and then do a different one the week after. But the latest Dragon's Milk Reserve is actually a peanut butter one as well. So I've got that as well. But
okay.
What about you? What are you drinking?
Tonight I am drinking. I did promise you guys I would drink something on the show tonight. I'm drinking some Mad Farmer, which is a brand that I've talked about a number of times in the show. They do have a number of different ciders. This one is their Peach Berry Delicious. hard cider with peach and strawberry. It's excellent. It's excellent. Mad Farmer does a pretty good product. I really like them, and this stuff is really quite nice. Excuse me, 6% alcohol by volume. And like I said, they are out of Michigan. I'm trying to see. Conklin, Michigan, out of Conklin, Mad Farms. Yeah, they make a nice product, and this is good. It's got a nice, there it is, my phone. It's got a nice, like a kind of a light peach flavor and the strawberry and the peach is mixed well together to create a nice kind of blend of those flavors together. So you guys might want to check it out. It's a nice cider. Not too sweet, not too tart. Kind of right there in the middle, right? Nice little flavor. It comes in a 4-pack, about $11 at your average bottle shop. Madhouse, like a lot of these kind of gourmet ciders and whatnot, they're not cheap, but they're well worth it. So,
yeah. You know, it's funny you mentioned that, and the whole peach thing made me think of. I went to there's a party store by my house here that it was one name, and then somebody else took it over recently, and this is my first time that I've been in there since the new owners took over, because I've been hearing really good things about their food and everything like that there. And so I went in there last night for dinner, and I looked around while I was waiting for my food to get done, and they have a bunch of the Midnight Moon and Old Smoky stuff, which if you're not familiar with it, it's moonshine and whiskey and stuff, and like Old Smoky does like a salted caramel that is just ridiculously sweet whiskey, really good, but it's super sweet. Although I was talking with the guy behind the counter, and he said, yeah, you take a little bit of that and you add it into apple cider. He said it's absolutely fantastic. I said, oh, now that would probably be really good. Something like that with apple cider. But they had like the Midnight Moon cherries, and then they also had, and I didn't know that Old Smoky was doing this, but Old Smoky Moonshine has, so the Midnight Moon does cherries, and my buddy has gotten those before. Basically, it's cherries that are stored in whiskey, so that you get cherry soaked whiskey or cherry soaked or whiskey soaked
cherries. Yeah.
Old Smoky has peaches.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm like, that would probably moonshine soaked peaches and moonshine soaked pickles. And that one, I'm like,
I've heard of those too. Yeah.
I'm like, ew.
I don't know if I want to get hammered when I'm eating pickles. You know?
And then they have another one that it's Old Smoky Mountain Java, which is like a coffee flavored one. I don't think it's actually coffee beans. It's actually just coffee flavored, I think.
You know, CD's got a point. Kind of a pickle like that and a Bloody Mary.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's a different flavor, though, because you're putting vodka in a Bloody Mary, so it's... but yeah.
I don't know if you saw the CD's eating, drinking a peanut butter milk stout from Left Hand.
Yeah, I haven't had that one.
And he said that somebody mentioned it on another show, so...
Huh. Okay.
Maybe it was on Tavern Nights. Maybe it was something that I think maybe Peter Rich maybe mentioned. It sounds familiar.
But yeah, it's this one's really good. So I'll have to look for that one, see if I can find it, because I have tried several. Saugatuck does one that I don't really care for. I think it's too peanut buttery. But yeah. So
alrighty. Okay, so Mad Farmer, Peach Berrylicious from me and from you.
New Holland Peanut Butter Poet.
Alrighty.
Both excellent.
Yeah, we're both having desserts, for our drinks tonight, because it's very, very much like a peach pie, peach berry pie.
That would be really good.
Yeah. So, let's just kind of roll right into it. I mean, one of the things I think we want to talk about before we get into, we're going to be spending a lot of time on WandaVision today, guys, just as a preamble. But I want to talk a little bit about the cancel culture stuff that's been going through our media right now. And it's pretty, I mean, people are freaking out. They're freaking out about things like the Dr. Seuss situation and the Space Jam controversy and stuff like that. And I just want to address that a bit before we kind of get into anything. Guys, nobody's coming into your house and taking your Dr. Seuss books away from you and putting them on a big old campfire. All right. The 6 books that have been, that are being, you know, so quote unquote canceled, are not being canceled. The publishers, the Seuss family, the people that control the legacy of Dr. Seuss, has decided that those 6 books contain inappropriate or offensive material that was fine 60 years ago, but times change. And at the very least, even if it wasn't really fine. It wasn't fine. It wasn't fine. It was never fine. But it was one of those things that people just accepted. They didn't understand it. They didn't, like, you know, Asian characters or Asian stereotypes were drawn a certain way. Same thing with Black stereotypes and whatnot. Once again, it wasn't good. It wasn't appropriate. But that's the way it was back in 1939. And I think one of the books, It Happened on Mulberry Street, was written in like 1939. Now, these 6 books I do remember because when I was a little kid, my parents bought a subscription to the Dr. Seuss like thing, and every month for a year or 2 years or whatever it was, we got a new Dr. Seuss book. And in fact, those books, I remember all 6 of them fairly clearly. And I even remember, actually. 37. No, thank you. I even remember specifically the imagery they're talking about. You know, if I were to see it again,
I remember some of it because I just watched the John Oliver show, and he actually went over it and he showed some of the pictures. He's like, right. I actually feel bad even showing you these. Right. Now, I'm reminded, you look at that kind of stuff, and I'm reminded of some of the imagery we saw in war comics or comic books during the war era. Oh, yeah. Of how holy shit racist any depictions of or most of the depictions of Asians were back then, because at the time, particularly the Japanese, mostly the Japanese, because the Japanese were our enemies in the war, so they were of course painted as villains all the time, and they were almost always seen as monstrous, racist kind of depictions. In the early days of the comic book industry too, Black people were depicted very racist as well, as cartoons or almost ape-like, and it was disgusting. Now, would I say that those should be stricken from the shelf? No, I think that those are things that it's a part of our history, and we should know that they're out there. We should know that that's what we did, so that we know our sins. We don't want them whitewashed away completely. At the same time, they shouldn't be lauded. They shouldn't be continue to be, we're not continuously printing those things. Yeah, we should learn and grow from the things that we saw, that we did in the past. Right. That we know are wrong. Right. Now, like I said, this isn't book banning. They're not taking these things off of the bookshelves necessarily. They're just the companies have decided. The company has decided, the Seuss company, or whatever, the Seuss family has decided that those 6 books are not going to be published anymore. And you know what? Dr. Seuss has a huge library of books. So if you want to go and read Horton Hears a Who or Cat in the Hat, those will still be available. Green Eggs and Ham. Or what is it? 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. There's tons of Dr. Seuss books. And, if anything, people are saying, okay, now did the Dr. Seuss family, did they decide to do this just to get attention? Well, maybe they did. Because honestly, who was thinking about Dr. Seuss these days? It's not like, from what Stella was saying, it's not like they sell a lot of Dr. Seuss books at the bookstore. So if anything, this might have gotten them a little more attention.
which, okay, fine. If they can kill two birds with one stone, get rid of some racially insensitive material and maybe draw attention to a classic author, I'd say that's a win-win on both sides. Now, we just got to remember, guys, nobody is canceling these things. I mean, this is right-wing media trying to shine a negative light, blaming the left wing for this. And this is
they're also distracting. They're trying to use this as a distraction away from the hearings about the Capitol riots.
Right. The Capitol riots and the COVID-19.
Well, where the FBI director was on saying that white supremacist groups were largely responsible for the Capitol riots.
Right.
From what their investigation has found.
Anything they can do to distract from those kind of things. Now, well, in good news, and the COVID-19, the 1.9 trillion aid bill was passed. So we should start, and Biden has said that we should start seeing $1,400, checks in the mail or in your accounts or whatever coming up as they should start rolling out at the end of March. So that'd be nice. I don't mind getting an extra $1,400 in my checking account. That'd be great. It'll go to my, H&R Block account, I'm sure, but still, that'd be great to have that. So anyway, yeah, these things are not being canceled. I mean, we are in a situation now where our culture is becoming much more aware and much more open to things that years ago we should have probably paid more attention to. Another thing to talk about is the new Space Jam movie. Now, this movie, Space Jam Legacy, I think it's called, New Legacy, is supposed to come out in summer of 21. It's going to be on HBO Max and in theaters, I believe in July is what it said. Now, people are making a big deal out of the fact that Lola Bunny, a lesser known Warner Brothers character, the female Bugs Bunny, the love interest for Bugs.
Yeah, I say not Bugs dressed in drag.
Right. The love interest for Bugs Bunny, who was introduced in Space Jam, very, very minor character, really. That in the new version, she's less sexualized. She's not as
and a lot of the stuff that they're using are like fan sex pics,
right? To show the comparison.
Not anything like what she looked like in Space Jam.
Right. Now in Space Jam, she was a little sexy, but it's not like these fan pics that they've been putting up. And the new version is much more toned down, which is appropriate, guys. This is a family-based movie, and she probably shouldn't have been as sexualized in the first place. Calm down. She's still going to be in there. Now, they did say that...
Who cares?
Right. And
she's
once again, who cares?
Rabbit.
Now, they did say recently as well that the Pepe Le Pew scene of the movie has been cut. Out of all of the characters in the Warner Brothers stable, so to speak, Pepe Le Pew is probably the most, when you want to think about it, there's a few racially insensitive characters, but Pepe was kind of the best example of how we took rape culture and joked about it. Because he was a character that was, they all tried to make him, he's just a Romeo, he's just romantic, he's trying to get the girl to, this female cat that he chased around wanted nothing to do with him.
Yeah. Meow, meow.
He would grab her and she would fight to get away from him. He would lock the door behind him so she couldn't get out, all these different things. It was, when you really look back at the Pepe Le Pew cartoons of the 60s, the 50s and 60s, they were pretty fucking bad, when you really think about it. And we all just watched them thinking, he's funny, he's chasing the girl, he's trying to get the girl, ha ha ha. Guys, if any of these characters needs to be canceled or retooled completely, it's Pepe the fucking Pew, okay? He, on top of it being a kind of an insensitive stereotype of French people, he was rough. It was rough. It was offensive on many levels. It was the stereotype about how, French men are very just lascivious, for lack of a better term. Also, the fact that because he's a skunk, it plays on the idea that French people are stinky, or Europeans are, maybe they don't use as much deodorant or whatever else. It was like this whole kind of thing that was like, guys, come on. And then on top of it, it was right meow, right meow. On top of it, it was just, like I said, the whole rape culture thing. They removed him from it. And there's actually talk of retooling his character to make him, instead of being a constant pussy hound, that he is maybe
literally, because he's always after cats.
Yeah. That maybe he is into like he's always looking for a job, and he's always getting turned down because nobody wants to work with him because he's a skunk and he smells bad. Okay, fine. All right, that might be an interesting, adjustment. That would
definitely be very different for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So, excuse me. But the out of all those characters, man, and there's some offensive ones. I mean, really, the next one in line, they were talking. There's been criticism about Speedy Gonzalez. Now, Speedy Gonzalez, yes, out of all of the characters, I would say probably next to Pepe, probably Speedy was one of the more offensive stereotypes, because it was in reference to him running for the border. That Speedy Gonzalez, the Mexican that runs for the, trying to get to the border, and then the offensive kind of like language that they would have for him. Now, Gabriel Iglesias is voicing him in this film.
Oh yeah,
and he's proud of it. He's happy. He's fine. I'm like, hey man, cancel culture.
I love Gabriel Iglesias.
Yeah, Gabriel Iglesias is great.
I love his show, Mr. Iglesias. I think it's absolutely hilarious.
I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my queue to watch. I've always liked it.
It's one of the better sitcoms that I've seen in the last couple of years. Yeah,
I've heard really good things. And I've always liked his comedy. I think Gabriel Iglesias is a great comic. And but yeah, he's doing it. He posted on his Twitter feed that he's happy to be playing this character and redoing the voice and of this iconic character. Well, once again, Speedy Gonzalez is a negative racial stereotype, but honestly, what was worse was his cousin, Slowpoke Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Slowpoke Rodriguez was a character that was only seen once or twice on the show, and he was the opposite of Speedy. He moved really slow.
He talked really
slow. It almost was like the stereotype that he was either drunk or stoned all the time. So you want to talk about a negative stereotype, that might be the one you might want to get rid of, is Slowpoke Rodriguez. In fact, I don't think he's ever been revived in any of the newer cartoons. Now, once again, Warner Brothers isn't taking any of this shit off. You can still watch old Pepe Le Pew cartoons on HBO Max. They're not getting rid of it. They're just not pursuing further stuff with the character. Mm-hmm. Because once again, it's not one of those things we necessarily want to do away with completely, because we want to remember, look, this is some stuff we used to do. We used to watch. And should we cancel it? Should we get rid of it completely? Yeah, we still sell Mein Kampf at the bookstore. You can still buy Adolf Hitler's book, for God's sake, at Barnes and Noble. So if you can do that, then I think we're okay to have some of these other things. We need to remember the things that we made that are bad too, so that we don't repeat it. Remember, guys, those who don't remember history are destined to repeat it. Well, this is how we remember history, is some of this crap. There's also been called, not to beat a dead horse, but there was also continuously now people are now, and we're talking about the far left, right that are actually doing some of this stuff, and then the far left that are doing this, and then the far right that are also doing this. These extremes on either end, because the far left are saying cancel it all, get rid of it all, that's evil and bad and wrong, and the far right are going like, see, they're trying to cancel it, they're trying to get rid of it. These left people are bad. No, they're both extremists on either end that are being ridiculous. People are calling for Miss Piggy to be called out because of her obvious sexual harassment of Kermit the Frog over the years. And her violent behavior towards him as well. The poor guy was getting karate chopped all through the 1970s.
Yep. And 80s.
And 80s. Is that toxic? Is that bad? Yeah, it ain't great. But at the same time, once again, this is stuff that was done 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, that we got to remember that we did so that we don't do it again. Yeah, poor Michael Douglas. I mean, oh, Jesus. And yeah, see, that's the thing. There is a viewer warning before a lot of those shows.
Yeah.
There's a viewer warning on Disney Plus before any of the shows on the Muppet Show that have anything that could be deemed as offensive.
And there's a lot of viewer warnings on the Warner Brothers cartoons as well.
And some of the
they've
some
cut
of the older,
a lot of them. They have pulled a lot of them, but there's some that they still put warnings up.
Right, and the same thing with some of the older Disney movies that featured, characters or depictions of racially insensitive stuff. And I do think that it's important that we that's still available, but that we also kind of can see and remember, hey guys, this wasn't appropriate. I was watching a documentary the other day about superhero movies and about the rise of the superhero movie and whatnot. It's actually a pretty cool documentary on Amazon Plus or Amazon from about from 18, I think it was, and it stretched all the way back to the Batman serials from the early 1940s, and like Batman, there was one of the villains that he went up against was a Japanese like terrible stereotype, and even called him like a Jap or something. That's a Jap, whatever. It was like, holy crap! I'm watching that. It honestly took my breath away. I was like, holy shit, because how unbelievably racist that was, but it's still there. It's still available,
Mm-hmm.
I think it takes a lot to ban a book or ban media. It really, and it should take a lot. It should be something just absolutely horrendous that nobody ever needs to see again before we decide to just take something out and never watch it or never see it again. And
maybe, I don't know, the Art of the Deal.
That might be a good idea.
Sorry, had to just throw that out there.
So, guys, let's remember where the cancel culture bullshit is coming from. It's not. So, there are not that many people out there that are so, concerned and want, these things to be done away with. Don't let the media blind you, please.
One of the things I wanted to talk about real quick.
The Anarchist Cookbook. Yeah, that might be.
Yeah.
Teach you how to make a bomb.
There's all sorts of rumors going around right now about Henry Cavill because he's not promoting Justice League, although really nobody but Zack Snyder is promoting Justice League.
The funny thing was at the very beginning of the whole, like, hey, we're making the Zack Snyder thing, he was the guy that was at the beginning of it. I think it was on some kind of call, Zack Snyder with Henry Cavill, where Henry Cavill was like, hey, Zack, you want to take this? And Zack Snyder was like, yeah, we're going to make it, or something like that. It was, he was there at the beginning. But
but now there's all this stuff about how he's not supporting the movie, and I'm actually hearing now, speaking of the Snyder Cut, just as a little aside from the Henry Cavill stuff, I'm hearing that there's a bunch of execs at Warner Brothers, like the higher up execs, that are not happy with the Snyder Cut, that they don't like it, and that they're really unhappy with the way that it came out. And so we'll see what happens when it actually hits in 8 days. But anyway, so there's a lot of rumors that he's being forced out as Superman, that they're going, because of this whole thing with J.J. Abrams, and I don't remember the other guy's name.
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yes. That they're going to be going in a whole different direction, and that it's not going to be Henry Cavill. There's been, I've seen some articles that say he doesn't want to do it anymore, which I've also seen other ones that say he does. Yeah,
I've heard him say, like, hey, he loved playing Superman and continue to do it if they allow him to. Yeah. I also heard a rumor today, or saw a rumor today that Superman or Man of Steel 2 is still a potential thing. But it would be on HBO Max. It would go straight to HBO Max.
And then the other thing is that there's talk that he's going to jump over to the MCU. And now today I'm seeing things that they've approached him, but he's saying he wants $10 million to do it. Right. And they've actually been broaching. The rumor is that they want him to play Captain Britain.
Correct, Captain Britain. No.
In all honesty, I think he'd be a fantastic Captain
Perfect.
Britain.
Absolutely perfect. I mean, for those of you guys who don't know, Captain Britain is not just a British version of Captain America. If anything, the British version of Captain America is a guy called Union Jack.
He's more like British Superman.
He's a little more like a British Superman. I mean, he's mystical in nature. His powers are mystical, flight and super strength and stuff like that. It changed. Originally, it was a little more, well, he was still mystical, but he was more of an agile fighting kind of character. And then later on, he got a revamp and his powers got amped up.
His sister is Psylocke, who could help bring in the X-Men.
Right.
But actually, one of my favorite things with Captain Britain was, I think it was Excalibur.
Excalibur.
Well, I loved Excalibur, but Excalibur #2, I think it was, where they were going up against Juggernaut. He had escaped.
3.
It was at 3?
Mm-hmm.
One of my
on the cover.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite panels is their whole fight with Juggernaut, and Captain Britain goes in, and Juggernaut starts making some quips about, who are you, the local good guy? And because he's got the whole Union Jack suit on and everything. Yeah, he's like, I'm Captain Britain, blah, blah, blah. And then the next scene is actually it's a far out shot, and all you see is this streak of Captain Britain getting punched.
Right.
And knocked like a mile away, where he hits the ground and gets up and flies back. And then the next scene is him going back out again. Right,
because he completely underestimated, the Juggernaut. I mean, the Juggernaut's one of those guys that goes toe-to-toe with the Hulk on a regular basis. And although Captain Britain is very powerful and can, he still needs to remember and he's up there. He's pretty goddamn strong, can trade punches with Thor and whatnot. But he's still, Juggernaut's on that next level. He's up there,
If he gets moving.
Yeah, and
he is the unstoppable force.
Right. So it was pretty fun. I remember that because on the cover of that issue, it's the Juggernaut walking, like there's a footprint on Captain Britain's chest, and he's just like, what the fuck, and the Juggernaut's walking away. Obviously,
and eventually in that one, Rachel Summers flies in, and he doesn't have his helmet on because he just escaped from prison.
Right.
And she flies in and says, "Hi, my name's Phoenix. Guess what I do?" And you just see him go, "Oh
yeah." And it's
and the next thing you know, he's back in chains.
Right, because he was completely vulnerable to psychic attack without his helmet on, because his helmet blocked that. Now Kane Marco, they've tried to make him a villain, he's been a villain traditionally, but they've tried to also make him a hero / anti-hero over the years. Now he's kind of in that middle range kind of guy, because he's like when one of the times Professor Xavier died, he's like, nobody beats on my brother but me, kind of thing, and he came along and there was another point where he had lost the Crimson Gem of Sidorak and lost that power. He was still very, very strong, big and strong and powerful, but he wasn't quite as powerful as he used to be. So they made him into a version of Excalibur. He joined a part of Excalibur. Now he's got the gem again, and he's the unstoppable force again. But it was they've done some interesting things with him over the years, and he's kind of at that level where he's so powerful he doesn't give a shit. He could, if it's a good guy, a bad guy, whatever, now, he doesn't care.
I'm trying to think, have they ever put him up against the Blob? Because it's the unstoppable force meets the immovable object.
I would imagine they probably have. Now, he's a lot more powerful than the Blob. I would imagine if he gets moving fast enough, he could just go right through the Blob, because the Blob is superhuman and stuff, but he's not the same power level as the Juggernaut. So Juggernaut, like I said, goes up against Thor and the Hulk and some of the most powerful people and the Thing and some of the most powerful people. And like I said, Captain Britain's supposed to be, he's up there, but he's not quite as strong as some of those other guys.
Well, and in all honesty, I would love to see them do something like along the lines of Excalibur, because I thought Excalibur was just a fun comic. It was actually one of my favorites when it came out. Because
in the early days, with Alan Davis,
I really liked the characters in there. I mean, you had Captain Britain, you had Megan, his wife Megan, the shapeshifter. You had Nightcrawler, and Rachel Summers,
and Kitty.
And was Kitty part of it too?
Yes, she was. Okay. Absolutely.
So I mean, Nightcrawler was one of my favorite characters in that version of the X-Men anyway, because of his swashbuckler attitude and just his little quips and things like that.
Easily one of my favorites too. Him and Colossus were kind of my favorites. I loved it. I loved Excalibur. I actually have the first 60 issues.
I've got the first 36. I think I got the first 3 years.
They also, because in that time too, they were using Alan Davis, who was the penciler on that book. I can't remember if Claremont, I think Claremont was writing it, but Alan Davis and Chris Claremont was kind of the architect of the X-Men through the late 70s into the 90s. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of known. There's actually, speaking of, there's a documentary on Amazon Prime that's all about Chris Claremont and his stewardship of the X-Men books. And because he took over,
he was the new X-Men class.
Yes, yeah, he took over with the new X-Men in 77. So he was the guy responsible for turning Wolverine into who he became. He was the guy that was responsible for making Wolverine, instead of being this younger kind of brash guy with claws on the ends of his gloves, to being a older, dude that had been around for a long time, whose claws actually popped out of his skin. He was the guy that was responsible for that.
They retracted back into his forearm and
right.
Does it hurt? Every time. Yeah. But so Chris Claremont, I think he was writing the Excalibur at the time. But like I said, Alan Davis, who is a British artist, I mean, he was the guy that kind of took Captain Britain and took him to that next level, because Captain Britain had been established as a character in the 70s, and then Alan Davis's version of Captain Britain was the one that you would see in Excalibur and stuff, and he had made the characters famous in Marvel UK, in the Marvel UK books, and then they integrated him in with the X books with Psylocke and all those other things. So when they made Excalibur, they're like, we got to have it. Took place in England. We got to have Captain Britain as part of the team, and Megan as well. And so they made it this. Alan Davis really made that book with that artwork in the early days, because I've actually been a huge fan of Alan Davis's work for ever since I was a little kid. That book was great. I mean, the cross time caper where they went through parallel dimensions. It was one of the first times that Marvel Comics was really kind of establishing, working with a multiverse, mm-hmm. and dealing with, you would see other versions of Captain Britain with the multiversal Captain Britain Corps and stuff like that. Excuse me. Great stuff, guys. If you want to check out a great book, The Early Days of Excalibur. Let's see, that was I think would have been late 80s, early 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s, and that might have been right around 92 or so when they brought that book around. So, but good stuff, really good stuff.
But yeah, so I'm actually excited. I honestly hope they can get Cavill into the MCU, because I think he would be fantastic. I do too. I posted a thing on Facebook about him being king of the nerds because of what he's done for nerds in general. I mean, the dude almost missed. He didn't take the call from Zack Snyder originally because he was raiding in WoW. Yeah.
He's a big gamer, man. He's a huge gamer. There was on his Instagram pictures of him, in a muscle shirt, putting his computer together, building a computer, a gaming computer, and people. Miniatures. Girls were like, "Oh my god, he's so hot. He makes his own computer," and you're like, "Holy shit," But yeah, he's the Witcher. He's Superman. You know, I mean, and if he was to go over to the MCU, he would be one of the few actors that's been able to kind of shift over from one to the other.
Yeah, bridge both.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, like Ben Affleck played Daredevil and played Batman.
Yes. Built his own PC for gaming, reads comic books and sci-fi/fantasy novels, prefers staying in playing video games and going out partying, almost missed his Superman audition rating on WoW, is Superman, is Geralt of Rivia. Thank you for breaking the stigma of being a nerd.
Yeah, yeah. And honest to God's kind of a nice guy, you know, because
loves his horse.
Yeah, yeah. I've met him personally. He's a nice dude. Yeah, I met him. You've heard the story.
Oh.
When I met him at Ren Fair, remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, super nice guy. Dealt with his fame very well. You know, took the occasional picture and stuff like that. Really, really nice dude. So, I'm in full support of him being Captain Britain, or maybe one of the other characters. Great, he covers his accent very well. I don't care. It'd be great to see him, however they want to put him. I do think I have heard the rumors that he is looking for more money. And I mean, if you can get paid, you can get paid, man. If these people can afford it, you know. And there's nobody would ever say that that Netflix can't afford, you know, a high-end star to be in The Witcher, you know.
But we should start moving along because we're approaching an hour and we are going to need time for WandaVision. So
we are. A couple other quick things. Just as a heads up, guys, it is beneficial. Bethesda is now owned by Microsoft. Like the sale of Bethesda, or of ZeniMax, the parent company of Bethesda, has gone through and was approved by the European Union and by the FCC or whatever it is here in the States. That as of the previous weekend, the plan for Xbox to buy Bethesda for some $7.5 billion was first announced in September of last year. And the European Union only recently approved the deal over the weekend of March 6th, 2021. Today, Bethesda and Microsoft released joint statements confirming that the acquisition has been finalized. So we don't know exactly what that means for all things. It does mean, like, Microsoft now has full access to all of their games. Will Bethesda be exclusive to Microsoft? I doubt it. Bethesda has a very strong relationship with Sony and with PlayStation. I would imagine that they will continue to support their products or sell their products, but I wouldn't be surprised if certain things do end up being exclusives, like on Xbox Game Pass and stuff like that. It does say it's no surprise to see more of Bethesda's catalog coming to Game Pass as Xbox has pushed its subscription service especially heavily since the Xbox Series X launch. The Bethesda acquisition was positioned as a push for first-party strength along the start of a new console generation, but it will also benefit Game Pass considerably. Future Bethesda games, for example, will come to Xbox Game Pass the day they're released, further bolstering the program's library. So what we'll probably see is, the next Fallout or Elder Scrolls game still on the PlayStation, but they'll be on the Game Pass, right away and sooner, that kind of thing.
Well, that's the thing. We're going to see all new Bethesda games come out on Game Pass right away, because anything Microsoft, if you are part of the Xbox Game Pass, you get them the day they're released on Game Pass. That's how I got Sea of Thieves originally, but which was just fun for me and my buddies to go out and play, and you're sailing around on a ship and drinking till you puke. Right. I mean, that was pretty much what we did. And then we sailed around and we went, hey, there's some guys over there. Their ship's parked right here, and they're like stealing. They're like on the shore. Let's go steal their ship. So we did, and I hung out on their ship while the two of them went and like attacked the guys on shore. And one of the guys was swimming back to the ship. He came up and I just shot him. And we sailed away in their ship.
Wait a minute, which game is that?
Sea of Thieves.
Oh, Sea of Thieves, yeah, okay. Craziness. Okay, so that was a main thing that I had, other than the stuff that I already talked about. Yeah. I mean, there's some other things that, minor
Yeah, I'm
things,
sure there's
but
some other stuff that we'll probably get into later,
but
and
for
we can get into next
now,
week. But for now, we can move on to WandaVision, and we can actually hit it at the hour mark, so we might actually
yeah.
get out close to on time.
So, yeah, holy shit. So,
WandaVision. Renee just said WandaVision.
so last week was the season finale. Last Friday, this past Friday, was the season finale or series finale.
Yeah, it
of
was
WandaVision.
it was actually called the series finale.
The series finale, because they've already stated there probably isn't going to be another season of this. This show was built to be a preamble prequel to.
Seeing the end, there really isn't a way to make a second season of this.
Well, I think they could, but I mean, it depends on what happens in the next movies that this is leading into.
And the thing is the way this is, we're looking at least a year and a half to 2 years before we would see another season of this, even if there was, because
exactly
we're a year away from the movies that this is influencing.
Exactly. Now, if it hadn't been for COVID-19, we wouldn't be. But
yeah, and unfortunately, I got to kind of agree with UCD on that. It was kind of an underwhelming finale. It was kind of emotional, but it was kind of underwhelming as far as what I was hoping for.
Right. Now, it was interesting to see how many actual red herrings there really were in this show.
Right. And I knew there were going to be some, and the producers of the show had come out and said that people were going to be, based on all the speculation and all theories. The fan theories, a lot of people were going to be very disappointed in the finale. And I got to say, I was, because I think that Marvel could have done so much more with this.
I wasn't disappointed, but I was bummed out that there were a few things that they didn't answer, and a few things that there was, like I said, that there were so many red herrings that they threw in there, like the fact that the whole thing about the astrophysicist that she mentioned didn't come into play at any point in time.
Right, we still don't know who that is.
We don't know who it was, and then also Quicksilver. The fact that Quicksilver was just the guy next door. Yeah, he was just the dude that lived in the house that Agatha decided to take over. Ralph Boner. That's even in the name. A lot of people don't realize that the term boner actually comes from, like, back in the 50s. It was considered a term not just for like a cock, but it was a mistake, a joke. Was a boner. Yeah,
we used that in the 80s.
Sure,
that was a boner move.
Yeah, boner move. Yeah, sure. I guess I didn't really remember that one, but yeah, no, that's true. And so it was, his name was Ralph Boner. I will admit,
which they say was actually also a throwback to Growing Pains, because Kirk Cameron's best friend was Boner.
Boner, correct? Yeah, and that was actually Chekhov. What's his name? I think that was Koenig. Yeah, it was Andrew Koenig. He was the guy who played Chekhov on Star Trek. It was like his grandson or son or something.
Oh, yeah?
Like that. Yeah, and killed himself a number of years ago. Anyway, so he was kind of just like a complete red herring, just something for people to kind of go, to speculate over and freak out over.
And the fact that they cast the guy who played Quicksilver in the X-Men movies was the big red herring.
Right. That was a
big let's give him something to talk about.
Right, yeah.
That was completely intentional.
Which I find hilarious, but I'm also like, oh man.
Yeah, fuck you.
So I do feel that the best episode of the season was the previous one, was 8. Because it really did explain, it laid it all out about how this was pretty much all just Wanda's trauma. This is Wanda working through her trauma and her post-traumatic stress disorder, honestly.
Yeah.
And, she was empowered. Everybody's like,
where really is all about dealing with grief.
Yeah, it's all about grief. And people were like, well, where'd she get all this power from? Well, we found out that it's because she's this prophesized, person, that she's meant to have power like this.
Yeah. But yeah, so the show starts off with right where we left off, with Agatha in the street with the kids, with the twins on leashes.
Yeah.
And she kind of lands. The twins start running for their mom, and she yanks them back. And Wanda's like, no, and shoots her scarlet magic at Agatha, who knocks her back, frees the kids. Wanda tells the kids, go home, go to your room.
Right. And now the kid, and then we also see that Agatha just absorbs the power. I mean, it knocked her back.
It knocks her back, but we don't really see that absorbing it there so much as later. It's in that same fight, but yeah, they're fighting, and she hits her again, and you see Agatha to take it, and she's like, I take power from the unworthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Wanda uses something which I actually thought was fantastic. So she's
really
like,
smart.
Okay. What's that?
Really smart.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, fine. You take it if I attack you directly, I'm going to go indirect.
Yeah.
And she does what she
throws a car at her.
Well, that's the thing. She did that in Civil War.
Yeah.
She used cars. But yeah, so she grabs a car, throws it in the air, and smacks her and runs her right into the house.
Right.
Which then is one of, actually, I think, the best little homages.
Knocked her right out of her boots.
Yeah. And they show the boots laying there.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize until I saw, like, the Nerdist thing. Agatha's mother, her name is actually the name of the Wicked Witch of the East.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. In the previous episode, I guess when they talk about when they say her name, I forget what it is now, but they actually said that's actually the official name of the Wicked Witch of the East.
Okay.
From Wizard of Oz.
All right, cool.
So it's a little Wizard of Oz homage there.
All right, that's cool. Yeah, and so we see a lot of that. We see the two of them fighting basically the whole time. And they're fighting back and forth, going back and forth. But
then when she stands up and she looks in the window and you see behind her and she sees the reflection of the white vision land.
Yeah. And she sees him and she confronts him and she's like, this is really you. Oh my God.
And he puts his hand on the side of her face.
And then his other hand.
And then starts to crush. And the thing is, okay, it's one thing. If he was programmed to kill her, he should have just gone.
Momentary.
And it was done.
There would have been no stopping.
Instead, he was doing it like this super evil arch villain that's enjoying what he's doing.
Right.
And he's doing it slowly. They said you were powerful.
Yeah.
And gives Vision time to her version of Vision time to come in and hit him. I'm like, that right there was a problem for me, because if he was actually programmed to kill her, he'd have gone done.
Squish. Yeah.
Roll credits.
We're all done. Yeah. All of a sudden the hex just goes.
Yeah.
Agatha's like, oh, well, shit. Well, back to the old drawing board,
Yeah, it's a 10-minute episode. It's
over. Well, but you gotta accept certain things in the story, and otherwise it's gonna be boring. But then we see the Vision and the Vision throwing down.
Yeah,
and it's pretty awesome.
That right there is Paul Bettany being an asshole.
Yeah.
Because
he kept teasing.
He kept saying, I can't wait for the next episode because you're going to get to see that it's an actor that I've always wanted to work with.
Yeah.
And he was talking about himself.
Yeah. You motherfucker. That was really funny, though. I mean, in all honesty, that was really great. Yeah. And then, the two of them are throwing down. And the cool thing, I mean, that they're putting their arms and hands through each other, and they're just like punching.
They're using their phase ability. They're using their bolts, their energy bolts. And you can see that the White Vision, even though he doesn't have the Mind Stone, still can shoot a fucking nasty laser.
Well, it's a solar beam that from in the comics, he's powered by solar energy, absorbs solar energy, and that's ultimately what powers him. And that beam that comes.
I don't think that's what it is in the MCU now, though.
Well,
because I think he's powered by Wanda's magic.
Well, I think that's what kickstarts him. I think that's what it was that kickstarted him. Because as we see later on, it's not so much the case. I mean, he's gone when the hex goes down. Whatever. But we'll get to that in a bit. I did find it funny that so that they're fighting. You probably did you watch it today? Because
I did.
Okay.
I didn't take any notes like I have been. So
okay. So you're still. We're also seeing now too, like the army shows up.
Yes. Well, yeah, because we go back to Wanda winds up in the town square.
Right.
And she's walking through the town square, and all of a sudden she gets blasted from behind, and Agatha has the high ground. So, which is kind of funny too, because if you look, and I actually paused it here to read the billboard, she's in front of a billboard for a natural cleanser called like Squeaky Clean.
Yeah.
Using the power of Mother Earth.
Nice. Yeah. But this is where the people in the town confront her, isn't it?
Yeah, because Agatha starts removing their
strings.
Their strings. And she starts with Dottie, who turns out to just be somebody named Sarah who has an 8-year-old daughter.
Another red herring.
Yeah.
Another red herring.
Who's like, he's like, she can be friends with your boys if you like that storyline.
Or maybe the school bully. I don't care.
I don't care. Just can you let her out of her room so that I can hold her and then she starts letting others go and Wanda says, you're making them say this because they're all accusing Wanda. They're like, Norm is, or not Norm. Yeah, Norm is like, when you let us sleep, we have your nightmares.
Fuck, man, that blew my mind, man. They said we feel your grief.
Yes.
Feel it,
Yeah, and she looks at Agatha, she's like, you're making them say this. She's like, no, they're your meat puppets. I just cut their strings.
Strings, right. Yeah. So fuck,
And she basically says, you can let them go. A real hero wouldn't torture them. And so she does. She like sends out this huge burst of energy and starts taking down the hex.
Right. And she's like, run. Yeah. And then but then she at that so they all scatter, and then she starts, but that's when the kids show up, and that's when Vision shows up.
Vision winds up fighting, and he falls away from White Vision, and they all wind up there in the square, and you see both Vision and the kids coming apart. Very reminiscent of the cover art of House of M #1 again.
Correct. Yeah.
When it comes to Wanda's magic, it shows the puzzle piece type thing coming apart.
Almost more like a Lego. Like they're just like clicking, like little pieces.
And then so boom, she's like, she cancels it and everything goes back up.
Right. And hopefully at least some of the people got out. But at this point too,
Sword saw that coming down though, and Hayward's immediately like, we're going in.
Go. And that's when they go through the barrier before it closes, and she gets a bunch of the Humvees and whatnot come through, and they show up, and it's like, and then
they have a showdown right there in downtown. It's the whole family standing there with their superhero poses, including the kids.
Including the kids, right? And she says something that tells the kids to take care of the soldiers.
Well, that's the thing. So Vision goes off because White Vision shows up, and Vision just goes, it says something about, you got this or whatever. And he's like, he takes off to go after White Vision, and they start fighting again. And she's like, kids, you take care of the military. And she goes off to fight Agnes.
Right.
Agatha. And the kids are like, okay. So, is it Billy is Wiccan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tommy is Speed.
Is Speed, yeah. So Billy just like mind controls all of them and freezes them in place, and Tommy goes running off and grabs all their guns and grabs some glasses and a hat, just like Quicksilver did in Age of Apocalypse.
Right.
He takes a hat and comes back, and they're like, great job. But then Hayward gets out and comes over and with a gun out and just is like pointing it right at the kids.
Yeah, he unloads, man. He
unloads. It shows what a fucking prick he really is.
Yeah. Because at this point, he is like, he's just out for himself. If anything, they made him look more and more sinister throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like at the beginning, he just looked like a dude in a suit. And then by the end, he honestly looked kind of sinister. Like his eyebrows looked darker, and I don't know, it was weird.
But then Monica is there, and she's like, no, and runs and jumps in front of the bullets.
Yeah. And they slow and stop as they go through.
We gotta go back because Monica is being held captive by Fietro.
Right.
And
she's
like
Ralph
pounding on the window, and she's like, Wanda, and the fake Pietro is just like, they can't hear you in here.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is my man cave.
He was such a douchebag. He's like, you a fan of Steven Seagal movies?
Well, but the thing is, she goes to
such a screaming douchebag.
He obviously still has the super speed
right.
and strength, because he zooms over and then he just puts his finger on her chest and goes boink and knocks her across the room.
Yeah, it's like a super speed punch kind of.
Yeah, is what it is. But yeah, so but she winds up getting him and flipping him and getting him pinned on the ground, and he's like, and she's so feisty or whatever, and she uses her powers to be able to see the energy coming off of the necklace that he's got.
Yeah.
And she snaps it off of him, and all of a sudden he becomes Ralph Boner.
Right.
And
if you remember too, that was what she kept calling her husband.
Mm-hmm.
was Ralph,
mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay.
Well, he even mentions the missus is out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's that's how Monica's able to get free and get back and help.
But yeah, so she gets there and she winds up, as he starts shooting, Hayward starts shooting, the bullets hit her and she like basically slows them down. She uses her abilities to
sap some of their kinetic energy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then one gets past, but Billy stops it with his telekinetic abilities.
Right, and stops it. Yeah.
And I love he's just like, he's holding his hand out and he's just like, and throws it down.
Yeah. I didn't say something like, hey, nice moves or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I like yours too. So that was cool. So we obviously are going to see more of Spectrum or Photon or whatever they're going to call her. I hope it's Spectrum.
But then Hayward jumps in one of the Humvees, starts backing up like he's panicking. And then all of a sudden we hear beep, beep.
Yeah. Here comes the fucking elephant ear truck or whatever
the funnel cake truck.
Funnel cakes, that's what it is.
It's like bang, and then Darcy, her only line in the entire thing.
Have fun in prison. Yeah. Oh man.
I want more Darcy.
Yeah.
I want Darcy and Jimmy, because that's the other thing. So Jimmy gets handcuffed earlier on, and he snags a phone. And she's
not a good neighbor. Yeah, you're right, CD. Agatha is not a good neighbor.
But Jimmy snags a phone, and he's handcuffed behind his back, and he basically makes Hayward think that the FBI is on their way and will be there within the hour.
Yeah, yeah.
And they throw him down on like these hay bales, and he uncuffs himself, and I love the flourish. I want
laughed my butt off.
I want a show with at least Jimmy Woo and Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
I would say throw Monica in there too, and have the three of them do like I want them to have their own show, or at least Jimmy and Darcy to have like an X-Files like show.
Yeah, I agree. Darcy and Monica, CD likes the idea too. I would love that. I think that would be a blast. I think at least Jimmy Woo and Darcy and maybe Monica could show up from time to time to help out or something, because Monica's obviously now a superhuman and she's got bigger.
And we'll get to what's gonna happen with her later, but yeah.
Yeah. But I think it would be great to see like Jimmy Woo and Darcy as part of like the cleanup crew for when superhero battles happen or something like that. Like he's the guy that shows up after to investigate, to go, to ask for witness accounts and find out what's going on, and then they uncover some other things or whatever. But there's also talk about the two of them. It would be great if the two of them had a show where they investigated some of the more mysterious points of the Marvel universe and stuff like that. But I think it'd be great. It'd be mildly like funny.
Mm-hmm.
It would be I just think it'd be entertaining as all hell, and it would be this great like palate cleanser, in between Marvel movies and shows and stuff, where we could just have this funny, couple of people.
Oh, I like that.
What?
Make Jimmy the new Coulson.
Sure. There's actually something I like that a lot too, because honestly, where he kind of got himself out of the handcuffs, it shows, and the fact that he kind of did some ass kicking. Jimmy Woo's an effective fucking guy. I mean, he's an FBI agent. He's effective as a secret agent, or as in his job. He may be a little socially awkward, but the guy knows what's going on. In the comics, he's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think he'd be a great new agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because there's talk about bringing some of those characters back into the Marvel universe, namely Coulson and Quake.
One of the things I want to get to after we get done is some of the other stuff about S.H.I.E.L.D. and things like that. So
yes,
let's finish up with the WandaVision episode, because so we've got where now they're fighting. Wanda and Agatha are fighting. Vision are fighting. And they wind up in the library, and
this is the best for me. This was the best.
Yeah, and Vision presents a thought experiment, which is the ship of Theseus.
Yeah,
which is a thought experiment where if you have something and it's slowly replaced by other pieces over time, is it the same thing?
Right.
So, like if the ship of Theseus, if the wood starts to rot and you start replacing planks, is it still the ship of Theseus once all the planks have been replaced?
Right.
And then if you take those planks, the rotted planks, purge them of the rot and build another ship out of them, is that the ship of Theseus?
Right.
And it's a whole thought experiment. And so they go through this whole thing. It's basically a logic problem.
Right.
And it, for a robot, it's one of those things where it makes them stop, and they actually stop fighting.
Yeah. I saw a meme that was really funny, that it was like the two ladies like, give me your power, no, and they're fighting and shit, and then it shows the Vision and the White Vision, ship of Theseus, I understand, and then that's it. I thought that was great, actually, and the fact that I need more explanation. Sure. And I like that. Well, I like the fact that he goes, I may no longer have the Mind Stone, but I still can do, this or whatever. And if you'll allow me. And he essentially unlocks all of the Vision's original memories.
Like, you still have all the memories.
Right.
They're just locked in there.
Yeah. And so he unlocks them. And then you see the White Vision's eyes change from those robotic eyes to humanoid eyes. And then you're like, oh, there he is. And that's when gone. Yeah, he's like, peace out. Yeah, it basically says, I have to go. And he flies out. And we don't see him again for the rest of the episode. No. And then actually one of the questions is, well, like, if he left, where did he go? Because he wouldn't have been able to get through the hex. Well, and that's one of the questions I have later, is how did he get into the hex? Into the hex, right. They don't explain that. And that's something that bothers me. Because did he get in it before? Yeah, he did. He got in it before she opened up the hex, right? Yeah, he was in before she opened it up. So how did he get in? Maybe that's an issue I have. Maybe his intangibility abilities, maybe being able to make himself intangible. I don't know. I think they just said, we're not going to explain that. And that's a hole. And it's a hole. And it's a plot hole. It's definitely a plot hole. Maybe they should have done the Turing test. See data on STNG. Yes. See, now I would have liked it if I would have preferred it if Wanda had like actually taken her vision and shoved him into and like combined the two of them together. And I thought that would have been a better way to bring them back. You know,
I thought that was what they were going to wind up doing, or they were going to wind up introducing Simon Williams, and that was going to wind up coming into play. But we still don't know who the WITSEC person was that Jimmy was there to check on.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Some people are saying that was just another red herring, just another way for Jimmy to be there.
Yeah,
that it doesn't matter who the
it matters to me.
It does. It matters to me as well. And I'm like,
because it could have been Simon Williams.
Yeah, it could have been. Could very much have been.
And a lot of people are saying that Ralph Bohmer is the person that was in WITSEC, because an actor who and that's such a like fake name.
Yeah.
That they think that that's not his real name, and that he's actually the person that Jimmy was there to look for.
Oh, he's such a screaming douchebag too, so that wouldn't surprise me. So anyway, so
the fight continues with Wanda and Agatha,
right? And finally, she's able to get a leg up on her.
Well, as the fight's going on too, earlier on, you see one of her hands turn like black.
Yeah.
And honestly, I gotta say too, Agatha's like blackened fingers were creepy as hell.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was creepy.
But yeah, so Wanda's slinging her magic at her, and Agatha's egging her on, and Wanda's getting madder and madder and throwing more magic, and every time she hits her, she just absorbs it, and she's missing with some, and you see it blowing
hitting the sides of the hex, yeah.
And they show Jimmy on the outside, he sees them lighting up.
Yeah.
And she just keeps, Agatha just keeps draining her, and at one point she like seriously drains her to the point where Wanda's just floating there, and she looks like half dead. She's like almost a corpse, and Agatha's kind of cackling about, you can't, the promise she made about, if you give me all your magic, I'll fix your broken spell and let you live here in peace.
Was this before or after she went into Agatha's mind?
This would be after, because
that's the thing. She got a leg up on Agatha and went into her mind. She disappeared,
and she wound up behind Agatha, and she did that whole mind control thing that she did to Tony Stark
she did to Thor and almost to Cap and almost everybody.
That was Age of Ultron that she did.
Age of Ultron, right? So so then we got to see like she kind of
took her back
trapped
to
her
1693 or whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
In her mind and stuff, and we got to see more of like just a little more backstory, a little bit more kind of stuff, and then. So they're fighting, and then they kind of knock each other out of that, and that's when
Agatha's back tied to the post, and Wanda's like, basically saying you're going to pay for this, and she brings, and all of a sudden all the witches that Agatha killed, including her mother, come back to life, and they
recognize Wanda,
and that's the thing. Wanda thinks they're going to go after Agatha. And they recognize her and start calling her Scarlet Witch. And start coming after her. And she winds up attached to the pole.
Right. And but then they escape out of this little mindscape. And then that's when
he hits her and takes her through. And
that's when the big combat is.
And then, that's when they do all the big fight. And then Wanda's sitting there, and Agatha says, I told you that I would give you, this perfect place, but a spell cannot be changed once it's cast.
Right.
There's no way to fix it. And so there's this whole thing, and then Agatha goes to like blast Wanda, and nothing happens. And she tries again, and nothing happens. And all of a sudden Wanda like lifts her head and starts changing back into regular Wanda.
Right. She starts like absorbing, finding the power again. Yeah.
And Agatha's like, what? And all of a sudden you start seeing as Wanda moves, there's a rune on the hex.
Yeah.
And then you see Agatha, and there's another rune there, and Wanda says something about the, in a given space. Thanks only the witch who casts who draws the runes can cast their spells.
Yeah.
Thanks for the lesson. And you realize that Wanda's been playing Agatha the entire time.
The whole time. Yeah.
And then
at least for a while. And then
she like sucks all the power out of Agatha.
Mm-hmm.
It takes all of her power back.
All of her power back, and probably some of Agatha's power too. And and then it was just like,
and then that transforms.
Right, and then transforms into her final form.
And gets a fucking badass motherfucking costume.
Absolutely. Probably the best one we've seen.
Yes.
out of the witch.
Her costume is fucking awesome.
Probably the best, I'd say one of the best examples of the character that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I love the look of it. I like the modernization of it. Especially once she has the hood later on. I think that just looked absolutely fantastic. I think she was absolutely phenomenal looking in that. But then she floats down to the ground with Agatha, drops her down in the town square, and says, "You know what? I'm gonna give you what you wanted.
Yeah,
you're gonna live here as the nosy neighbor."
Yeah, as a neighbor, and she's like, "No, God, no," and she's like, "I don't want to do this." Yes, you do.
You're gonna need me, Wanda. I'll know exactly where you are.
And she called her cruel too. She goes, "You're cruel," and it's like, please, not any crueler than Agatha was. Agatha killed the fucking dog. I mean, God. I think we're gonna, and then she does. She transforms her, and all of a sudden
she just goes, and Agatha transforms into
Agnes. Yeah. And then she's like, "Hey, hon.
Yeah.
Is it hot in here? Did I leave the oven on?
Did I leave the oven on, or is it just you, hot stuff?"
Yeah, it was so. Oh my God. She goes, "Okie dokie, artichokey." You're like, holy shit, dude, really? So yeah, at least she knows now where Agatha is, and then
we will definitely see Agatha again.
I think so too. Catherine Hahn has already said that she hopes that she can come back and that they use her again for some other things. She really was. I've always loved that actress. I've always loved Catherine Hahn in almost anything that I've seen her in. She's great. She's funny. She's great as a comedic actress. She does great as serious stuff. She's really, really great. But at that point, that's when we see the family go, okay, let's go, and the kid they gather the kids
Vision
up.
knows what's happening. And
absolutely.
He's like, it's a good ending except for us.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, except for us.
So they all go back to the house, and they change.
They tuck the kids in. You see the hex starting to shrink.
Right. So they know they're on borrowed time. They put the kids in bed, and that's one of the more rough parts of the episode for me. It was because you could tell, you knew that they were saying goodbye to their children, but they didn't want to say that to the kids.
Well, and Wanda says something though that comes back later. And that's that she tells them family is forever.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing could split us up at all.
I think we're going to see the kids again.
Well, I do too, because of one of the post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
But so they say goodbye, and then they switch kids, and they do that little handhold thing, which is very touching.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go down. They show downstairs. They show Wanda turning off lights. She turns off one light. She goes turn off the other, and the first light comes back on, and Vision's sitting there. And he's like, "I heard it's bad luck to say goodbye in the dark."
In the dark, right?
And she's like, "You didn't hear that. You just made that up." And he's like, "You're right. I just wanted to see you."
And the whole exchange that they have at the end here, I mean, where he's like, "What am I?" And she's like, "Well, you're the Mind Stone's power within me."
Yeah, you're my, and she basically says all this stuff, and she says, "But most of all, you're my love."
Yeah, and it was just like, God.
It was a really touching moment, honestly. It was.
Yeah.
And then you see the one tear.
Yeah.
Come out of the Vision's eye.
Yeah. See, I agree. It was a good ending for her, seeing as that, like she didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
Like that. And yeah, people definitely got the feels from this scene. It was impactful. It was powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And this poor woman has had to continuously say goodbye to everybody that she loves. She's had a rough
life.
She has. She's had a rough time. And so they have to say goodbye. And as the hex comes moving through, he,
they kiss, and and he disappears.
And he says something to the effect of like, "We've seen each other so much. I don't think this is a goodbye."
Yeah. We've said goodbye so many times, and she says, "We are destined to say hello again."
Again, right? Yeah. So I think, and Paul Bettany has come forward saying that he's happy to continue playing the Vision.
Yeah, yeah. They asked him, "Would you play the Vision forever?" And he said, "Sign me up."
Sign me up. He's in. So I think I definitely feel we're going to see the White Vision and some point.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. We don't know what happened to him. They don't explain. He just disappears. So we don't know where the White Vision is.
That's the thing, too.
I think we're going to see him again later.
Right. And we didn't see the kids dissolve.
Well, and that's the thing. When she leaves the room, she's like, she turns back, and the last thing she says to the kids is, "Thank you for choosing me to be your mother."
Right. Yeah. So I definitely we're going to see these kids again at some point. So
then she goes
very
out.
Powerful.
Yeah.
So then everything dissolves.
Everything dissolves. She's back in the just basic structure of the house.
And interestingly enough, too, it was nighttime, like inside the hex. Like it was
daytime when she came out.
It's almost as if no time had passed.
Yeah, that's
the car is still there. Yeah. It was almost like,
and then she puts her hood up, which is like an Avengers thing, and then walks through town and goes back to downtown. It basically does her walk of shame.
Yeah.
Through all the townsfolk, just kind of ignoring them, and walks up to Monica and has a little conversation with her and says, "I have to figure out who I am."
Yeah.
And transforms into her Scarlet Witch outfit, now with a hood, which looks badass, and then flies out of town.
Yeah.
And then stops at the edge of town, right by the sign, and looks back, and you see the sun setting.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a western view of Westview. And then she flies away. And then you get where Monica's then talking with, or actually, then that's where it ends. And we go to credits.
Right.
And then there's two scenes.
Two post-credit scenes.
There's a mid-credit and a post-credit.
Right.
So the mid-credit scene, we get Jimmy Woo basically coordinating everything.
Yeah, coordinating cleanup.
Yeah, and Monica comes over and she's like, authority looks good on you. And he just kind of smiles, and this other agent walks up and says, Captain Rambo, they're asking for you in the theater. And she's like, okay. And she heads off with this woman, and they walk in to the theater, and there's nobody in there. There's a screen with like the popcorn ad. Right. And the woman says, I was sent by a friend of your mother's, and then transforms into a Skrull.
Into a Skrull!
And says,
God damn it.
He'd like to speak to you. And she's like, well, where is he? And she's like, up there.
And then she just smiles.
Yeah. And then that's where it ends. That's where that ends. Yeah. And then we get through more credits, and then we go to the post-credit scene, and it's this big view of mountains. And I'm really wondering if it's the mountain from the comics.
Mount Wendigo.
Yeah, Mount Wendigo. I'm wondering if that's where she's supposed to be.
Might be. I'm guessing that it's probably back she's somewhere in Central Europe, and like where Sokovia is supposed to be and stuff like that.
But you come in and across this lake. It's absolutely a beautiful setting.
It's gorgeous. It was idyllic.
And there's this little cabin, and Renee mentioned that it reminded her of the cabin that Thanos was living in.
Yeah, sure. I would say it was almost like, it almost had like Nordic or kind of like runic kind of design on it. Well,
that's the thing. The shutters seem to have like runes on them.
Right, exactly.
So it could be something that she created to protect the inside so that nothing could come in as well. Yeah. So, but she's sitting on the porch, and you hear a teapot where she's drinking a cup of tea, and you hear the teapot whistling inside, and she gets up, goes inside, pours some more tea, and then you kind of fade into the back, further into the cabin, and you go into the bedroom, and then there's her astral self in the Scarlet Witch outfit, looking through the Darkhold.
Yeah.
And
yeah. She's reading him. She's reading the book astrally, kind of like the way Doc Strange was.
Yeah. And there's all these little floating orbs around her, and all this. So I think it's going to play into, this is all definitely going to play into Doctor Strange. And
absolutely. CD says, like, unless it's him helping her and then she turns on him in the end, which Doctor Strange dynamic duo are coming. I hope it doesn't turn into the Doctor Strange versus the Scarlet Witch. I hope it's more like the two of them
one
working
of the things
together.
that Agatha says, though, is that when she's quoting the Darkhold talks about the Scarlet Witch,
chapter on her.
Yeah, there's a whole chapter on her, and that she is forged, and that she is stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme, and all this.
That was something, man. Yeah. I was like name dropping the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah,
I was still really bummed that I was really bummed that Doc Strange never showed up, because they teased it.
Well, and then at the same time, when she's sitting there looking through the Darkhold, all of a sudden you hear Billy and Tommy yelling, "Mom, Mom, help us!" And she looks up.
I didn't notice that.
Yes, you hear the twins saying, "Mom, help!" Just like they were yelling in the basement of Agatha's. It was the same audio, basically. And she looks up, and that's where they ended it.
I missed that. Yeah, CD, I hope that she turns on him in the end to get her kids back. That's the movie. I think that would be very obvious, and I hope that's not the case. So we'll see. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's how, a mother's love,
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen some things saying is that WandaVision has now basically made Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. non-canon.
Mm-hmm. And Runaways, too.
And Runaways, yeah.
Because
it has canceled them. And
because the Darkhold...
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either.
I think the Darkhold can look like different things.
Yeah, I agree too. It's an artifact. It's an artifact level mystical kind of thing, and you can't destroy something that easily. It's like, because I remember in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. they, like, I think the Ghost Rider took it
back to hell.
Yeah, and to get rid of it. And then I haven't watched the second season of Runaways, but it does show up in that too. And I think, the Darkhold can look differently if it wants to, or depending on who's using it or whatever. I think it's one of those books that changes the way it looks depending on who's reading it. And it's extremely powerful, tome of black magic. So my guess is, people are like, well, what if they're establishing the multiverse, maybe Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and blah, blah. No, bullshit. All this stuff is happening roughly in the same 616 universe. It's just
the problem is the movies got ahead of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Which is why S.H.I.E.L.D., I think, went out of time.
Right.
That's the other thing. S.H.I.E.L.D. went out of time.
Right. They went into the future, and they did some other things. I think they wanted to continue telling stories on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and not be hampered by what was going on in the movies. Because
the last time they actually referenced the movies, I think, was Thor: Dark World.
I think I agree.
Because otherwise, season 3.
Right. I don't remember them ever mentioning the snap or the blip or whatever they're calling it. I prefer the snap. I know.
The blip. My actual problem was that the movies didn't reference S.H.I.E.L.D. enough.
Right.
I thought that the movies should reference S.H.I.E.L.D. more.
I don't understand why we didn't see maybe Quake or Coulson or the rest of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. team show up at the end of Endgame.
Coulson was such a huge part of the Avengers getting together and doing that whole thing, and him dying in Avengers.
Right.
The fact that he never showed up again, and that none of the Avengers knew that Coulson was actually alive.
Could you imagine what kind of a rallying point that would have been?
Oh, fuck yeah.
It would have been great. He would have stolen the scene. It would have been awesome.
He could have come back in Endgame and been like, with the Devastator weapon and been, and made some line and had the entire Avengers go, what? And just get this huge morale boost.
You know what would have been awesome? Also awesome. If he lifted his hand up and Mjolnir flew into his hand.
Yeah.
and surprised him. Oh, what the,
Yeah, exactly.
Here, and then tossed it back to Cap. Here, Cap.
Yeah, no, you got it, Cap.
You got this one. I just use the gun. Yeah, it's just that would have been really funny. Well, yeah, I mean, CD, you're right. Marvel, they're not going to do anything that's going to be too crazy. They don't want to upset the money train. But at the same time, man, if they don't take some risks, if they don't do some interesting stuff, people are just going to get bored.
Well, and that was the thing. There was a whole thing on Saturday Night Live about how Marvel can't fail.
Yeah.
Because of the whole Guardians of the Galaxy thing. They took a bunch, a almost unheard of comic and turned it into like one of the biggest blockbusters of all time. And Saturday Night Live did this thing where they were like 6 people on a bus,
shopping carts.
Yeah, shopping carts. 6 shopping carts. Marvel can't fail.
Yeah.
They just put whatever they want into a movie and it's going to work.
Yeah, exactly. It would fucking anything they do pretty much turns to gold these days. I mean, it's
also the most original stuff that has been in the movies.
Yeah.
In the last decade. Sure. Let's face it, the most original stuff in the movies in the last decade has been comic book movies. Other than that, it's been a bunch of fucking reboots. Or just rehashing of the same stories.
Or you also can consider Star Wars and Star Trek. I mean, continuations of franchises, things like that. But
Star Wars, the Star Trek though wasn't a continuation. It was a reboot that we've had over the last decade. And Star Wars, I guess it was sort of a continuation, although a lot of what they're doing now is backing away from that. There's talk that they want to bring Mara Jade in now.
Right, yeah.
And that they're actually looking at Karen Gillan as Mara Jade. I'm like, do it. Let's go. I'm all for that.
That'd be badass, man.
I think she'd be great as Mara Jade.
They've also talked about I think the character that they're going to replace Cara Dune with is this one Twi'lek character that showed up in I think Rebels or something like that. I haven't watched enough of them to actually tell you who it is, but overall
for Rangers.
Yeah, for the Rangers. I don't know, man. I mean, Marvel Comics, the Marvel Comics movies, specifically superhero movies, have been. I mean, yes, they come from the source, the comic book source, but they have been some of the more, the strongest stuff that has come out in the last decade.
So this though had, do the Zahn series. That's the only reboot I will accept, and there's a lot of talk about that. Actually, CD, there's actually a ton of talk right now that they are looking at doing the Zahn series as something either as an aside or along with everything that happened in the Skywalker saga before that, but they're going to have to recast, and that's one of the things that with bringing Mara Jade in, they could do that, and I think that recast. Sebastian Stan would be fantastic as a younger
Sebastian Stan would be he's already looks so much like a young Mark Hamill. It's ridiculous.
And he's already working for the mouse. So
right. God, it's just, I don't understand why people are so fucking hell bent against recasting these roles. It's like people understand. I mean, yes, there would definitely be people that would be like,
I agree.
Harrison Ford is the only Han Solo for me. Blah 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 blah.
Now, you know what?
Look, man,
I was like that for a long time until I saw these last 3 movies. And now I'm like, please recast.
Just recast, man.
I love Mark Hamill. I think he's fantastic as Luke. But I agree with CD here. Take the last 3 movies out of continuity make them the legends, and
both acting. I agree.
And bring back, recast the actors, and bring what you've turned into legends back into canon.
Right.
Do the Thrawn series. Do the, all of that stuff. All those books, bring them back in, and let's do that. And if you want to do the old stuff, bring Revan in. Do the Revan series, because that's a great story.
Just like we talked about with the D&D stuff, because we talked a lot about like the D&D movie and shit like that on the new one coming up on Tavern Nights last night, is that, Dungeons and Dragons has all of this very rich like content that they could make movies about, like the Dragonlance series and the Moonshade trilogy, the Avatar trilogy, all the books in the Forgotten Realms, anything with Drizzt Do'Urden in it, all these things. They got all these rich, but instead they've opted to write something new, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. And okay, fine, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully what they will write will be great. The same thing could be said with Star Wars. There's all of these great novels and great established canon types of things that for decades people thought were like loved. So there's and yet the mouse decides, we're going to go with something completely different. We're going to go with our own kind of thing. And I, me personally, I've taken a much softer take on the most recent trilogy. I didn't hate it. I did see the problems. I did understand the problems. For me, I'm like, it's still Star Wars, and I love Star Wars. Personally, The Force Awakens brought me to tears, because it was like, I was just like, I'm an 8-year-old in the theater again. And
it's because you were watching New Hope again.
Exactly. It was, we talked about it. It was perfect. It played on the nostalgia and all of those emotions that are pent up in the system.
It hit all the same points that New Hope hit.
And so, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. The Dark Elf trilogy, all of that stuff would be great for D&D, but they're going with something new. And I think probably part of it is they just, like, Disney probably just doesn't want to pay all the people that own the rights to, like.
Although we are getting a Drizzt Do'Urden, an Icewind Dale at least, game coming out, the R.A. Salvatore game.
Sure. On that end, but like I said, with Disney, I mean, with them making their own stuff whole cloth, that means they don't got to pay Timothy Zahn or whoever owns the rights, or R.A. Salvatore or whoever, for the rights to use that story. Like, I mean, are you kidding me? Give me a goddamn break.
Yeah, come on,
I mean,
Mouse.
you got enough fucking money.
And the amount of money that those movies would make. I mean, you put out the Heir to the Empire trilogy as movies. Endgame is no longer your number one movie of all time. Heir to the Empire is.
Right. Tell Timothy Zahn, hey, I'll tell you what, we'll give you 1% of the gross. And he would go, I'll take it. 1%.
1% of $1 billion.
Of $1 billion, What is that, $100 million? Something like that? Yeah. It's like, I mean, holy shit. So $10 million, something like that. I don't know. I can't, I'd have to do the math on, I need a calculator. But still, it's like, Timothy Zahn would be a fool, or whoever's doing his business these days would be a fool to not take that deal. And even if it wasn't all that author, I mean, I don't know if even he's writing anymore, but if
it would be 10 million is all it would be for 1%. So I would
1% of $1 billion, still $10 million, man. That's a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, but when you think about it in the scale of what that is, you'd probably want more like 5%.
Well, sure.
And then then it's 50 million for 3 movies. That's $150 million then. Because each one of those movies is going to make $1 billion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, because why? Because the old school fans of Star Wars that read those books, that love them, will run to the theaters.
Well, yeah.
All of the Star Wars fans that exist now will run to the theaters because it's more Star Wars. The new fans will be like, "Ooh, new Star Wars." I mean, it's just,
Yep.
It's printing money. It's printing money, but they got to do their own thing. It's just stupid. So we should probably wrap things up. It's getting kind of late.
Yep.
Guys, thanks for joining us tonight, and everybody that was in and listening and watching and all the other fun stuff. Guys, be sure to tell all your friends about us and spread the word. We could really use. We're almost there, man. We're not almost there, but we need like another 13 more followers. That'd be great. If we get up to 50 on the regular subscribers, that'd be really fantastic. It could pump us up to that next level in Twitch. It would just kind of really, really help us out. So tell us your friends about us. Otherwise, you can find us. You can listen to or download or stream all of our shows and all the places you find quality podcasting. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, radio.com, and of course, you can stream or download all of our episodes at nerdswithalcoholshow.com. We're here on Twitch every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. And if we follow the shows, follow up putting up the shows on YouTube a couple days later.
Sorry, I was just laughing at what CD just posted. Next stop, hype trains, and the real money comes in. NWA. We got no money, man. There's no money coming in here.
We've been doing this for 4 years. We're just doing this for the shits and the giggles. Someday would be nice. If it could pay for itself, that'd be at the very least.
I'd like to get some gear out there, if in case people wanted like some Nerds with Alcohol gear. If we had a logo.
Motherfucker. We have a preliminary one that I've made. I guess gotta finish.
You need somebody to be a tracer.
That ain't funny, man.
I think it is. It's a Kevin Smith throwback.
It's a Kevin Smith, yeah, for sure.
You're a tracer.
Where is that logo? It's coming, CD. I have a preliminary one that I whipped up. Yeah, it looks good. I penciled it up about 3 weeks ago. I just got to ink it and kind of finish it up, tighten it up.
Yeah, and then get it to me so that I can get it up on, on our social media and on places where we can get some gear, because I actually want a Nerds with Alcohol shirt myself. So, but yeah,
we all, man?
Yeah, you can follow us on most of the social medias. We are on Facebook, Nerds with Alcohol Show. We are on Twitter and Instagram, Drinking Nerds, and then we are on Untapped, the beer drinking app. It is just Drinking Nerds. Search for us on there and send us friend requests, and we will get you added. And then remember, this Friday night, we will be back for Tavern Nights.
Yes, it'll be back on Tavern Nights on this Friday at 7 o'clock.
We will be stopping right around midnight this time, though. Not going till 2 o'clock in the morning, or 1:30.
Hard out at midnight.
I was watching the last session, and that last fight was 3 hours.
Oh my God!
Because it was the biggest fight you guys had. It was the most creatures in one, and I may have to do some things for fighting and stuff like that later. Because
Chris, it really wasn't your fault. It was the terrain. The terrain slowed us down a lot, and on top of it too. Yeah, which was supposed to. And on top of it too, we still have some people that are still new to the game and still new to combat, still trying to figure things out.
I was watching it, and there was actually one point where Euchariah could have thrown a fireball if he had moved just a little.
Yeah,
he would have been able to see down the hall and thrown a fireball, and it would have changed the entire thing. He probably would have wiped out all the regular kobolds, and it would have changed the entire fight.
Sure,
but
absolutely.
It's one of those things where it's a learning curve.
Right. And that's the thing, Euchariah is, I think, particularly Euchariah and Rich and Pete, more so Pete, maybe overthinks things a little bit. I think Sydney maybe overthinks things a little bit too, because they don't want to fuck up. So they're like, what do I do? And when you are a spellcaster, you've got a lot of options.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Spellcasting is tough for a newer player.
Right. Yeah, I always recommend their first character should always be more combat oriented, more of a fighter, because there's spells can really make things more complicated.
Pete playing Euchariah has been fantastic.
He has been really great. I mean, nothing against what he's doing, but in this particular fight, I think there was a little bit of overthinking in a few points, and it was me. Like I just waded in and started swinging. You know. I mean,
well, that's because you're a fighter. That's all you can do.
I'm a paladin. That's what I do. I got spells. I can throw spells around too, but it's better that I channel my spells into smites and stuff like that instead. So, but either way, it was a great game. It was just ran along, and we are going to be making sure that that doesn't happen as often. Mm-hmm. So, but so yeah, guys, join us 7 o'clock this Friday night. This Friday night, this nerd channel 7 o'clock, and we'll be there.
Yep.
So,
good time.
Good time.
So all right. Well, I think on that note.
Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks, CD, for chiming in on the chat.
CD and everybody else.
Everybody else, thanks for checking us out.
Yep.
And we will see you in a few days.
Yep. So, all right. Well, I think on that note.
Until next time.
Slancha. That was
all right.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.
Good night.